you've got the ketogenic diet. Ketogenic diet, as you all know, high fat, low carb, low protein, increases blood ketones, great energy source for the brain, mimics caloric restriction and fasting, both of which have literature to back up their utility. But what's really cool is not only can they be used for energy, more and more evidence is coming out that they actually do a lot more in many, many ways. They affect the expression of genes, in other words, whether certain genes are turned on and turned off. And it's not necessarily only those related to energy. Epigenetic alterations. This is changes that are caused by modifying the gene expression without changing the gene itself. Ketogenic diet alters DNA methylation. Ketogenic diet and ketones alter histone acetylation, and in collaboration with an awesome scientist in the UK, a good friend of mine, Dr. Nell Siyad, we are showing that it alters the expression of a whole bunch of microRNAs. And all of those things are working to change the expression of certain genes.
So you can have ketones that are in the blood, and then they get taken into the cell through transporters, and then they end up in the cell, or they can bind to receptors on the cell membrane. And then that can initiate basically all of these different cellular effects, either from outside the cell, or once they're in the cell, they begin to communicate with other proteins within the cell and elicit these specific effects, or they even go and bind directly to the DNA and elicit effects that way. And you have like this dynamic communication within our cells and then also between our cells. But what's interesting is many of these benefits actually seem to be attributable to the ketones themselves through this functional signaling. And that's why we're interested in exogenous ketones, because they have the potential to replicate some of the benefits of the diet. Ketones can, through functional signaling effects, communicate and change our DNA.
Beta-hydroxybutyrate, BHB, acts as an HDAC inhibitor.
Basically, our DNA winds up on itself, and all of the different genes in the DNA can be expressed depending on certain signals within the body. There's a way that the DNA is wound upon itself that uses these acetyl groups to basically silence or open up the DNA. And something that was really interesting was, within the past couple of years, it was determined that beta-hydroxybutyrate is what we call a histone deacetylase inhibitor. And that's a big word, but basically it means that it actually travels to the DNA and binds there and allows certain genes to be open so that those genes are expressed, so actively influencing the expression of those genes. And what we've seen in some of these studies are that a lot of the effects or some of these beneficial effects that we already know of ketosis in general. So for example, they increase the expression of our own body's antioxidant genes and things like that.
So because there are epigenetic effects, you can get that happening, you can get all kinds of things happening. The more you know about how this works, the more you can go to clinicians and say, but look, you have a problem with this gene, I have an answer.